hello, good evening, people. I'll let people come in how we're doing this evening as you kind of get settled and work your way around the room. Apologies if you had any problems with the link earlier on. We had slight confusions with the link, so we're glad that you made it. And as always, these sessions are being recorded, so there's always an opportunity to catch up. So it's nice to see you. Who's in the room? Come on, get into chat and tell me who's in the room. If you put your name in chat and the area you're in, that'd be fantastic. And actually, give us the reason why you're here. That'd be wonderful to hear why you're here as well as I start to introduce our guests. So just come into chat. Randomly, the chat from our last session was here. So ignore that chat, but you can jump into chat straight away. As you're kind of preparing to write into chat, I can kind of give you a quick whiz around the platform. For those who haven't used it, you can see the chat facilities over on your right. Yeah, you're right. And on there you can see chat. You can also see a Q&A button. So make sure you post your questions in the Q&A button and they'll appear on stage. We'll be doing questions, leaving plenty of time later on for questions. We really want you to have as much time with James as humanly possible to be able to ask us your questions that you want. Also, what do you need to know? That's the main things that you need to know. You can also talk to other people that are in the session as well, and connect with them and make sure that you network. And at the end of the session, if there's enough people around, we're going to be hanging out and doing a networking session in our fluid space, sorry. And it's a place where you can kind of bump in. You'll turn into a little bubble and you'll walk into each other and bump. It's all good fun. An opportunity to really take the conversation further. It feels very much like real life, like if you was in a bar or something. So it's good to see you. Hey, Becky, good to see you here. You're looking at or wanting to integrate all platforms. Alex, Robert, oh, you got in. Fantastic. Good to see you. Looking for insights in launching and scaling digital channels. Please, others, put your stuff in chat so we can make sure that the conversation is suiting you. Without further ado, before I bring James onto the stage, has anybody looked and watched the podcast yet? Has anybody been watching the podcast? I would love to hear your thoughts. Put it in chat. This week we looked at everything platform strategy, and our free creators started their journey at looking at their platforms, what they want to do with their platforms. So we're hoping this conversation will take that first. And great to see you too, Sabrina. Sabrina's our producer and has been producing all of our sessions. Tammy, who's backstage working all the magic. Shall we bring James onto stage? Shall we bring James on stage while you guys continue to tell us what you're doing? James, thank you so much for being here. It's amazing.
Thank you for having me.
No, well, thank you. You were, firstly, I've got to say thank you publicly. You were amazing. You gave up kind of 5 weeks of your life and you would meet with us every Friday. I've learned tons and tons and tons. We're just kind of sitting in those sessions and listening. And it's been really amazing to be able to take those learnings and kind of share it with others as well. So we're hoping that this is an opportunity for us to go a little bit deeper into some of those conversations. But firstly, it's fantastic to have you here. And congratulations as an order, because when I last saw you, you had a big job promotion, haven't you?
Yeah, so I'm now co-managing director of agency at Little Dot Studio. So I oversee our agency function, which is kind of like a multi-service, multi-platform social media agency and creative production studio. So I now kind of oversee all of our entertainment clients as well as our kind of original production, creative production studio, and partner with my other co-MD, Robbie Spargo, who oversees our sports and kind of strategy functions. So yeah, lots of stuff now led us up to us, but it's a lot of fun.
Fantastic. I mean, most of you guys know who we are, TV Collective. We support people of color, global majority creators working in the screen industries. As we all know that the media landscape is changing really fast. Commissioning's going down, platforms are doubling, but there seems to be, on the digital space, there seems to be lots and lots of opportunities. So that's what we really want to get into. James, as he's described himself, from Little Dot, you work with quite a lot of the big brands and big agencies. So you work with Netflix. Tell me if I've got this right. Netflix, Prime Video, Nat Geo. Your team are content superfans and know everything about building audiences, growing brands, and making sure that you can kind of scale your creativity and be sustainable with your online platforms. Is that a good sum up in what
Yeah,
you guys?
yeah, that's a good summary. So yeah, we are a digital production company, social media agency, and digital media network. And essentially, what we do is we work multi-platform. So any kind of social video platform, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, X, anything with social video. We work with predominantly rights holders, so broadcasters, streamers, production companies, talent, um, distributors, governing bodies, anybody with kind of rights. And essentially, the mission is to kind of help them realize the potential in their content. And that may be about leveraging the content to build revenue and generate revenue through social platforms. It could be to build marketing and build fandoms. And yeah, it's just about how kind of understanding what their kind of core KPIs are and helping them realize those through social video and strategy.
Before we jump into it, can we just go? Let's take it back a little bit. Where did you start? Where was your interest, or your kind of your kind of into the digital world?
Yeah, so I've actually been working kind of on YouTube and Facebook for TV accounts for like 15, 16 years now. So I first started out at a company called North One, and I was running the Facebook and YouTube channels for Fifth Gear, The Gadget Show, and the World Rally Championship. And I had no idea what I was doing essentially, but we were kind of just running those communities and running those accounts. And I mean, at one point, I was doing the live text commentary for the World Rally Championship. So I had to listen to the radio and try and type in real time kind of lots of Scandinavian rally drivers' names of locations I didn't know, and I was getting all the spelling incorrect. But yeah, started out like 15 years ago, kind of doing that. But I've been working at the team that became Little Dot. I joined about 13 years ago, and been working there ever since. I started out as like essentially a content editor. So I would clip up all of the TV shows and put them out on YouTube. And when we first started out, it was just kind of putting out clips with no real kind of strategy or intention and just seeing how it went. But over the kind of decade and beyond, we've helped evolve that strategy to understand how the platforms behave, how people consume that content, and how people engage with it, and kind of adjusted that as we've gone along. So yeah, started out as an editor and digital producer, and just have grown from there really.
And Little Dot is kind of one of the biggest agencies. Are you guys one of the biggest agencies in the UK? Talk to us a little bit about some of the clients. I know you spoke a little, but just some of the clients that you're working with.
Yeah, I would say that we are a global leader in our field. So Little Dot's over 500 people. We've got offices in LA, London, Munich, and Sydney. I would say UK, which is where the agency that I oversee is based, that's about 300 people based in the UK. And our partners kind of vary from, we work, as you said, with Netflix UK, with Prime Video UK, working kind of their multi-platform strategy. We work with a lot of governing bodies. I'm going to be honest, a lot of the stuff that we do is white label. So I'm trying to not say clients that I'm not allowed to talk about, because quite a lot of people we work with, and they're like, yeah, do it, but don't tell anyone you do it. But all the major kind of broadcasters, we work closely with Warner Brothers Discovery, all three media as a distributor, and we do all of the YouTube channels and all the social accounts for Gordon Ramsay in partnership with Studio Ramsay. So we've got over 1,000 channels that we run. And to give you an idea of scale, and this is the stat that I always love bringing out, we have like 11.2 billion organic views going through our systems every month. So we just have an
What?
unbelievable scale. Yeah, 11.2 billion. And that just gives us an understanding of how platforms are behaving and how audiences are engaging with content. And to give you an idea of just scope and scale in terms of the amount of hours of content we put out online, we have more hours of content than Netflix. We're only second globally to Prime in terms of the amount of hours we distribute online.
Bloody hell. That's absolutely shocking. I mean, what in the podcast, one of the things that really came across was that for creators, there isn't really any hard and fast rules on how to kind of navigate the internet space or the digital space. Is that true? Kind of for people who are thinking about, but I would assume that a lot of the audience here have worked in TV. And obviously, we don't have to go over what's happening in TV, and are looking at the digital space in terms of an alternative, as a possible alternative in terms of being able to share their content and their stories. What is the kind of starting point, would you say, for somebody who wants to dip their toes or start building, or building their audiences?
Yeah, I think one of the advantages is also the kind of drawback in the fact that there is so much choice. There's so much options in terms of how you can engage with it. And it can be somewhat paralyzing, kind of the amount of options and choice. And how do I build a digital presence? Is it, which platform do I choose? What kind of videos am I making? How do I approach that? And it can be crippling, the kind of just sheer scale of it. But my recommendation on that, with any kind of task that might seem kind of Sisyphean, it's just like, just start doing it. Just start making content. And kind of what my first thought would be is like, what is it you're trying to build? Why are you trying to kind of put content online? What is the audience you're trying to build? And then look at similarities and types of accounts that you think that you want to be like. Where are they strong? Like, is it, do you want to be building something quick and fast and build an audience? And TikTok and Instagram could be a good place to do that. TikTok especially, because it's an opportunity to grow really fast. Are you looking to build a kind of long form type of product? Then YouTube is definitely the platform that you want to be engaging with. I think the beauty of YouTube is the versatility of it. You've got creators on there that dominate in shorts, which is, their kind of TikTok clone. It's short, kind of up to 3-minute vertical videos. But also it dominates in terms of like long form 40 to 60-minute videos that people watch on connected TVs. People treat YouTube like TV, but they also use it as a social platform like TikTok. So it does give you that versatility. But in terms of how creators should approach it, I think the first thing to do is just start, kind of experiment, make your first video, kind of see how it's doing, and kind of find the kind of platform and format that you feel comfortable in, and then start kind of just creating and iterating as you go along.
How do you know what's the best platform? I mean, like, I know that you just kind of broke down YouTube and TikTok. Um, how do you know what's the best platform to use, or is there ways that you can be kind of using each platform to make sure that they complement each other?
So I would say the way to approach it is, where do you feel most comfortable? What are the platforms that you're engaging with that you genuinely enjoy being on? Because if you're going to be creating content, you're going to be on that platform a lot. You need to be chronically online. You need to be naturally engaging with it. So don't force yourself on TikTok if you've never used TikTok. You won't speak the language. You won't seem authentic. But if you constantly watch YouTube channels and you're always on YouTube, then that should probably be the platform for you. You can cater the approach that you're making. If you're always on Instagram, maybe that's the kind of platform for you. So I think, where do you feel comfortable? And if you're looking to kind of go onto a platform, then you should be really engaging with it and embracing that kind of content, and finding creators and seeing what they're doing and why, and asking yourself, why do I find this compelling? What is about this that I think is really interesting? And understanding what it is about that hook and that format and whatever it is that has really kind of driven your interest. Because, like, throwing yourself on all platforms all at once is just going to burn you out, and you're going to see no success. I think being focused and concentrate on one particular platform that you enjoy being on, and then building a format that suits the style of content you're trying to create. Like, I think that, it's interesting because obviously traditionally cooking videos were like what you saw on TV, but now it's the top-down vertical videos are really prominent, but also that's a very oversaturated model. So if you're trying to make cooking videos, do you want to do the top-down over the top? How would that differentiate from all the thousands of other creators in that space? So, like, I think being authentic to yourself, being authentic to the kind of platforms that you're comfortable on, is going to garner more results, because yes, there are definitely ways to approach certain platforms to maximize your chance of success, but nothing's going to maximize your chance of failure than hating the content you're making on the platform you're on. So make sure
Right.
you enjoy what you're doing, and then start perfecting what, like, the creation and the format type and the optimization and all of those things.
Or just get out there and start making and enjoying the kind of creative process and just kind of getting feedback. Like I was
Yeah.
saying, a lot of our community are production companies, right? Is there a good place to start, or what advice would you give if they've got back catalogs of content that they've got already? Is there any advice on what they can be doing to monetize that?
Yeah, definitely. So I'd say the difference between, say, like a creator and production company, or creator and producer, is, as a creator, I think you're trying to build a community. to then, like, whatever their end goal is, whether that is about hopefully getting ad funded content, or or building it to kind of a means to an end. So it could be to sell tickets to an event or whatever it might be. Actually, the value is the community you're building. So therefore, you've got freedom to which platform you want to be on, because ultimately you're not monetizing the content directly. It's other ways of then building monetization models into it. If you have a back catalog, well, then you want to monetize that content. So you're kind of limited. You can't monetize the content on TikTok or Instagram with pre-rolls or anything like that. You can on Facebook and YouTube. Facebook's monetization is very it's changed a lot in the last 12 months, and it is quite sporadic on what monetizes. That you can effectively monetize any form of engagement on Facebook, from a video view to a like on a status and stuff like that. So you can build a fandom and monetize that, but it is still tricky to do it. YouTube is very very robust in its monetization model. It is a kind of, you see all the adverts roll beforehand and you get a percentage of the advert revenue generated off of that. So you kind of can set yourself quite clear metrics of, I will build a channel, I will increase my views, I will increase my watch time, and the monetization builds off the back of that. So if you have a back catalog, I would say YouTube is your focus. But then also you need to know how you can maximize your chance of success on YouTube, because you need to build a relatively meaningful following and a meaningful viewing numbers and watch time numbers to generate any kind of decent revenue from it. So yeah, if you have a catalog, my advice would be YouTube, but also my advice would be, do you have sufficient catalog? Do you have the sufficient rights to utilize that catalog? And what is your long-term strategy? Do you have enough content to upload 1, 2, 3 videos a week for 6, 9, 12 months?
It's important. Guys, make sure that you start putting your questions in chat. I'm going to start opening up to questions soon. What James just shared was quite a lot of information. I'm sure for some of you guys might want to dig into that a little bit more. So make sure you're putting questions in. Another good thing that kind of really came out or comes across a lot in the podcast, or will in kind of in following episodes, is the importance of defining your values, your audience, and your objectives. And this is really important when it comes to kind of monetization, the marketing, and the profile raising of your content. Can you talk us through a little bit actually how you can go about doing that, and why that makes such a difference?
Yeah, I mean, when we work with our partners, and like as I said, predominantly it'll be a production company or a distributor, or it might be a streamer, an SVOD platform, whoever. Like, we'll typically kind of say, like, what's the KPIs? What are we aiming for to build here? Is it a revenue play? Is it about fandoms? And then if it is about marketing and fandoms, it's like, okay, so what's a comparative example that we're like aiming for? What are the competitors that we want to be in that space? So just understanding what the expectations are, and then we build the strategy around that. So if it is a monetization play, then what we will do is like, okay, let's identify the video length and formats that will maximize revenue. On YouTube, it's worth saying that like 40 minutes to 60 minutes is the kind of sweet spot in terms of high monetization. It's like episodic length. But also, if you're creating content yourself, that's a lot of content to make. My recommendation is always just make the video the length of the video should be. If it's going to be 5 minutes and the video is perfect at that length, make it that. Don't stretch it out arbitrarily. But yeah, so what we would do is identify what the KPIs are, and then build the strategy around how we can maximize that. So for monetization, it's identifying the best route for monetization. If it's marketing, it's then identifying what are the best platforms to reach the right fans. Identifying what demographics are on those platforms. Obviously, TikTok skews younger, Facebook skews a bit older, and YouTube is a kind of mix of all audiences. So identifying that, and then building out the appropriate genre, strategy for those channels. So going back to your question on how do we identify values, I think again it's bespoke to the client. What are you trying to achieve? What is the channel that we're building? Some of them might be sensationalist, like some of them might be kind of very serious documentary. We always make sure that when we distribute the content and package it and optimize it, it reflects the tone of voice and the identity of the show or the client or the personality that we're working with. If we're working with a comedian or something like that, making sure that we package it in their voice. it's a process that we work very closely with the partners on. But if you're doing it yourself, I think it's kind of having clarity of what is your voice, and finding your voice is something that takes time. You have to be creating content to really define what that is, and I think that that's something that just takes time.
Mm. There's a lot of talk about YouTube and people jumping on YouTube and the importance of kind of having a platform strategy that includes YouTube. Why is that? Is that for real? Is it that important? And why is YouTube so important? And why would we want to start building or using it as a platform?
Yeah, I think YouTube is very important. I think there's a multitude of reasons, really. As you kind of alluded to multiple times, the TV industry is in a difficult place. Advertiser revenue is in the decline. Viewing behaviors are pulling away from traditional linear viewing. Younger viewers don't watch TV in the way that we used to, and YouTube is constantly growing in dominance, and as are the streamers and Netflix and Prime and all of those types of destinations. I think the reason YouTube is so important for both kind of front and behind camera, I think one, understand, like, that's the direction of traffic, that is where people are going, and YouTube has positioned themselves as a competitor to TV and streamers. They're rolling out a new feature imminently called shows, which just looks like a reskin Netflix, where you can watch long form episodic content on connected TVs. We're constantly seeing the most prominent and most used device for YouTube is connected TVs. It used to be mobile, and now we're seeing more and more viewing on connected TV, more than mobile, more than laptop. So it is replacing kind of traditional TV in terms of how people are consuming content. So that is where the direction of travel is going. But also, if you want to understand this and want to know how to be kind of like how to use the platform, you need to be engaging with it. You need to not only understand what is popular on the platform, how behaviors are changing from creators to distributors, but also you should know the nuts and bolts. So you have a channel, upload stuff, see how it works, understand the data that platform gives you back. It's absolutely astounding the amount of data that you get in the back end of YouTube, from like how long people watch your video, what was the peak of interest, where they dropped off, what were the search terms that brought them to it, what other videos are they watching similar to yours. There's just so much data, demographics, age, location, all of those things are there, and it just gives you a level of understanding that TV can't even compete with. Because like when you compare it to the equivalent of barb data, it's just that it's night and day. Like YouTube gives you such a phenomenal amount of back end data that not only can you understand what people enjoyed in your content, what they didn't enjoy, but it lets you augment, iterate, and improve constantly.
Yeah. It's like you were talking about, like, kind of having content and having to be kind of consistent, or just having a lot of content. Can you talk to me about around some of those? Because that's daunting, right? That's scary to think about. Like you were saying, how regular do I have to be putting content, and how much content do I need to put on? How regular do I need to feed this beast? Can you talk to me about some of the content strategies that you can use? I know that we'd spoken. I'd heard you. We had mentioned the three H's, which always excited me when we spoke about it in our session. So I'd love you to talk about the three H's and explain how people can really manage kind of feeding the beast, the YouTube beast.
Yeah, so the three H's are like hero, hub, and help, or hero, hub, and hygiene. So that is how you kind of categorize, almost like tiered content. So um, your hero content is your big kind of tentpole piece, the thing that you kind of invest the most time and money into, and it's like what you really want to kind of celebrate the channel on, but also probably can't be putting out every single week, or in some instances every single month. Um, your hub content is the content that like sustains the channel, like that you kind of again is like might be slightly longer, might have other contributors or something like that. And then your hygiene or your help is the stuff you can put out constantly. So a kind of example of that might be if you have a podcast that you're putting out on YouTube, your hero might be a live event, a meet and greet, something that actually is kind of a once once every few months that you do, or once a month you do, your hub could be the podcast itself, and the hygiene or help could be clips or shorts or excerpts from the podcast that you are taking. So yes, you're repackaging something you've already posted in a 40-minute podcast, but you then have multiple videos throughout the week or month that you can utilize to make sure that algorithmically your channel keeps appearing, you're part of the conversation, you're finding new audiences. But also it might be that clip that leads people into the hub content that brings them into the actual podcast itself. So, and it's the same with, it doesn't have to be a podcast. It could be an episode of whatever. It could be a sketch show. It could be whatever longer piece of content you're making. The hygiene/help content is the excerpts, the clips, the community posts, the things that you're putting out that just keep feeding it and reaching new people. And then you know that, like, when you've got a hero piece that could be, as I said, like could be a live event or whatever it might be, all of the work that you're doing with the other content helps build that momentum. So when you launch your hero piece, you're not doing it from a standing start. You've been building that momentum and building that algorithmic and audience behavior to kind of driving to that viewing.
I think it's a really useful way about how you can think about your content, right? And how you can organize your content so it doesn't feel exhausting trying to kind of, get audience or get eyes to it. In terms of monetization, what is the kind of key thing that people need to think about when they're trying to monetize online?
So I would say, like, picking the right platform, so YouTube first, and then length of content. As I said, like with YouTube, anything under 3 minutes, make it a short. Don't upload it as a 16:9. Make it a short. It won't monetize, but it will get seen. It will allow you to get visibility. I would say, being frank, between 3 and 8 minutes, they don't really monetize. It might be a nice video and stuff like that, but doesn't really monetize that particularly well. Just the RPMs, like the revenue per mil or the revenue per view, is just particularly low. Anything over 8 minutes, you can get a mid-roll in, so you can have technically 2 adverts per video, so it doubles your opportunity to monetize. And when you start seeing kind of compelling RPMs and compelling revenue per view, is a 20-minute plus, and then, as I said, the sweet spot is like 40 to 60 minutes. That's when you can have multiple adverts all the way through. So that's, where you can kind of make more meaningful revenue, and that's where like long form comes into play. But that's all in mind in terms of like, if you're dealing with catalog and actually cost of production is zero, therefore video length is easier to play with. If you're creating the content yourself, I go back to the point I made earlier, like, make the video the length it needs to be. If you run out of steam and the video is 5 minutes, make it 5 minutes. Like, if you stretch it to 8 to try and get that mid-roll, no one's reaching that 8 minute, and YouTube will see, you know what, everyone drops off at the 40% mark or 50% mark. This isn't a good video. But if people are watching 100% of a 5-minute video, YouTube will recognize that's a decent video, and it will start serving it to more people. So that view duration does matter as much as the video length itself. So making sure that it's compelling 100% is more useful than having a super long video that no one watches all the way through.
What are the other ways you can make money online other than kind of, so you talked about YouTube advertising. What are the
Sure.
other ways people should be thinking about?
So there's ways to make money through other functionality on YouTube. So there's memberships, which is a kind of subscription style service on it. So that is essentially a paywall to kind of more additional content. So you could make additional content. So let's say, for instance, podcast, you could have a behind the scenes or a bonus pod or whatever it is. That could sit on memberships. There's also a thing called super chat, where you can kind of people pay to have their comments sit higher than others and stuff like that. So there's ways to kind of make additional revenue that way. And then there's sponsorships where someone might want to kind of sponsor your video or kind of ad reads and things like that in traditional ones. So there's lots of different ways there. And then when it comes to Instagram and TikTok, that's more kind of sponsorships and brand integration.
So when people are starting to think about monetizing their content, what are the first things that they need to be thinking about? So you're thinking about getting a YouTube channel. Obviously, we all need to eat. What are the things as you're setting up and planning that you should be considering from the jump in terms of monetization?
In terms of monetization, if I'm honest, if you're talking about at the start, my recommendation is to just focus on growing the channel, not worry about monetization, because it will take time. And I think that you could quickly get frustrated. You're like, I'm not making a penny from this. The goal at first is build a meaningful destination. And it's kind of like the build it and they will come, like Field of Dreams type thing. So yes, monetization obviously will be the end goal, and you want it to be self-funding in the long term and actually, profitable. But I would say that initially, get the content right, get the channel right, build that audience, because it will take time to get it to monetization. It will take a while to kind of build a large enough following that you can you qualify for the YPP, which is the kind of YouTube program that enables you to monetize. So I think, yeah, my advice, if you're talking about it from the jump, is focus on the content, build the audience, and then the monetization aspect will come. And that's where like shorts come in useful, because even though they don't monetize, they're a great way of building an audience fast and getting out and getting visible and kind of reaching people through kind of the recommendation feed rather than trying to monetize from the off.
I know the question is a bit like how long is a piece of string, but how long roughly have you noticed there's an average time frame that it takes for people to kind of start or get to a place of monetization? And also what kind of numbers or kind of talk to me about what you say, kind of having an audience. What is that? Is that in subscriptions? Is that views? Just explain those two things for me, and then I'm going to open it up because I can see some questions coming in now.
So I am going to give a very frustrating answer on this one, because because Live to Dot's a bit unique. We are a premium preferred partner, so we work with kind of TV publishers and stuff like that. So we have a slightly different setup where when we kind of launch channels, we have the backing of a kind of CMS, so we are just in a slightly better position when we're launching stuff. And also, I've got a big machine of kind of over a decade of experience and with channel managers and insights analysts and all of those types of things. So have a bit of machine behind us. We used to say that it would take anywhere between 6 to 12 months for us to kind of start making things profitable. We're seeing it actually we're monetizing sometimes by month 1 or 3, and it's starting to kind of hit momentum. So we have a very kind of good process in how we're launching them, but also we typically are launching channels when we have a body of work behind it, and we're very selective in the channels we're running, because ultimately it needs to have like hundreds of hours for us to kind of utilize to make sure we can build a map and strategy over a 12-month period, an 18-month period, because we want to build channels for multi-year growth. So in terms of how long it takes us to monetize, I think Little Dot is quite unique in the fact that we can get things to monetizations very quickly. Get profitability, so we cover our own costs, is another thing. But yeah, we can monetize it pretty quickly. In terms of channels that sit outside of a kind of CMS, I know to kind of be eligible for the YPP, which is the YouTube Partner Program, it needs 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 public watch hours in the last 12 months. So the reason they brought that in is they used to have kind of lots of bot channels being just launched and people monetizing from the off, and it wasn't legitimate. They wanted to make sure people were actually investing in it. So yeah, it needs to have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours for it to monetize.
For it to start monetizing. Oh, do you know what? I'm going to start open. I'm sure there's lots of people, there's lots of questions that are here. I know that Sabrina, you've got a question. It is a practical way to start to test the waters is to create a podcast on YouTube and then build an audience. And that's kind of a little bit what we've been talking about. Is that the best way to start? Create something and then start building an audience once you started, yeah?
Yeah, the reason I would say yes to that, it doesn't mean don't have a strategy to start with. Obviously, I would say look at what competitors are doing, what is the kind of success you're trying to emulate. So at least you can give yourself the best chance when you're making the content itself. But you learn by doing, and it's all theoretical before it's practical. So I'd say that like by actually making the podcast, doing it, putting it out there, testing it, watching it back, did it work? And then, if you start getting views, great, but have a look at the analytics. When did people when was the point of interest, when did people drop off. That kind of feedback enables you to iterate, so the next one you make and the next one you make gets better and better and better. And also, I know some people with some massive podcasts that deleted their first 100 podcasts because they were like, oh, that's not representative of who we are now, and so they like wipe the slate clean. So I think that it's important to make sure that you throw yourself into it, and that's why I was like, make sure it's on a platform you're enjoying, or make sure it's in a subject you enjoy doing, because it's going to take hours of hard graft, because you're going to have to learn, find your feet, find your voice, and you need to love what you're doing, because otherwise it will feel like a chore.
Yeah, I was just saying to you earlier, it feels like you're quite naked as we've kind of stepped up this podcast. It feels quite naked. I feel like I'm standing there naked and everybody can see my mistakes. Everybody can see my knickers as I'm kind of making the mistakes, making the mistakes out there. We've got a question here. Tricky question. What genres on YouTube are oversaturated, and do you see any gaps?
So it's a tough one, because like loads of genres are very saturated, or very popular, but whether you can argue that they're oversaturated to the point where it's not worth attempting, I don't know. Like cooking is very popular. There's a lot of cooking. We launched a documentary channel called Real Stories about 8 years ago, and we were one of the few channels that were doing it. And then we launched like a true crime one, and then different genres of documentary. Now every distributor has their own documentary channel, and it's like very saturated market now. Like every broadcaster, every distributor has a long form documentary channel. They usually hire people from Little Dot before they launch them. I just want to note that in a slightly bitter turn. But yeah, so that's an area that's very popular, but there's still demand for it. People love true crime, people love documentaries. It's not I don't think there's a finite interest. YouTube's so huge, and social is so huge, and you're always finding new audiences. So I don't think that, quite often we've got stuff where we've been running channels for 8 years, and we'll launch stuff and people are just finding it because they weren't watching that content 8 years ago because they were too young. And it's just like we're constantly finding new audiences and new ways to engage. So I'm kind of skirting the answer a little bit. I think that there's lots of very popular subject matters and genres, but a truly defining voice kind of comes through. Like food's very popular, but there's always kind of creators coming through that now everyone talks about, that they might not have been talking about 5 years ago, but food's always been a very popular area. Like Top Jaw is a really good example of someone that everyone talks about. Top Jaw recommending the restaurants, and they've been going 10 years, but only really started that everyone kind of in the public consciousness now.
And also there's something about kind of finding your community, right? Finding your tribe with on YouTube, right? So you're not necessarily, slight difference in TV where you're not, obviously you want to build numbers, but you're not trying to attract everybody. You're really trying to knuckle down into your community and build on that community so you have a loyal following. Is that a fair thing to say in terms of on social? Is that the slight difference with TV and socials?
Sorry, say that again.
Do you know the idea of kind of finding your tribe or your community? So rather than trying to reach, do wider nets, you're really trying to build on that community, having
Yeah.
a single fandom. Is that important, do you think? Yeah.
Definitely. And what I always say is, like, we have a bit of a mantra in our entertainment team of like, run it like a fan, because obviously quite often we're working with existing shows, and we're kind of, for the duration of the term, are custodians of running those social accounts for those shows. And there are tribes and there are fandoms and there are huge, like massive communities that love that content, right? And I always say that, like, when we're running an account for a big TV show or whatever like that, I said, like, there's fandoms out there, and if we do an okay job, we can be part of that conversation. But if we're nailing it, we lead that conversation. We can be the defining voice in that fandom. And it's not just limited to pre-existing IP and pre-existing shows. That operates in the same. We build lots of genres, and we have, like, as I said, we've got history channels and true crime channels and kind of like human interest channels. And these are genres that we built, and we build a fandom around those interests. And we will license content from all different places and put it in there. But ultimately, the tone of voice and the destination is owned and operated by Little Dot, and we have to kind of engage with that tribe, engage with that fandom, and it can be super broad. But what we found, history is a perfect example. We had a generic history channel, and then that realized actually you've got some people who love World War II history, you've got some people that love medieval history, love people that love ancient history. So actually, we can have a broad one, but we'll have our Odyssey, which is our ancient history, and it's all about ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and and people love that particular niche, and it's like, well, let's serve that fandom and super serve that fandom because they love it and they engage with it in a way that a generalist may not. So understanding that kind of specialty in those fandoms, you can really capitalize on that love and really kind of serve them well.
We've got, thanks for the great advice, James. As YouTube is also dominant, why are companies creating fast channels?
So I think fast. Do I do a flippant response? Because fast is essentially just TV repackaged. It is like it's just streaming TV. I think what's been really interesting about it is, and we're seeing it with the kind of segregation of content through streamers. The reason people cut cable is because it felt like they were paying like too much money for lots of different separated services. And then Netflix came along, and it was the only game in town, and you could find everything on Netflix. And it was like, cool, I'm paying $5 a month for one service so I can find everything. But then there's Prime, and then there's Disney Plus, and then there's like Paramount Plus, and then there's Apple TV, and it kind of segments. I think what's appealing about Fast is the same that's like appealing about like Pluto's. It's free. So actually, users are happy to kind of cut the cord a little bit on their streaming services and find free TV. So it's an opportunity for rights holders that have vast catalogues to go directly to consumer and give them an option that is free at point of view, but it can generate additional revenue. So I think YouTube is still another version of that kind of free to view. People can kind of watch it there, but also there is still something habitual about putting on a TV and then sitting back and let it play for you and let the show happen. So if you find a show that you like and you're like, great, like I don't know why it constantly sets to this, but my fast TV always turns on Baywatch, and I'm like, I've never watched Baywatch in my life, and now
You
it's
know
there.
why it sets to it. Come on,
I know
James.
what it makes me look like. I'm aware of what we're saying that, and I thought about it, but I'm being honest. Like it comes up, and you just like, my wife will come in and be like, "Why are you watching?" It's like, it's just on. Like I swear, it's just on, and it's just that thing of like, I think fast viewing captures that human nature of like, you put something on and it just rolls, and you're like, okay, I'm watching this now. So I think that it capitalizes on that old habitual way of viewing TV, but also it's free. You definitely have broadcasters and distributors that have large vaults of content that can utilize that, and people enjoy watching it. It's why I think Pluto is doing so well, and is it Roku, the other one as well? It's doing incredibly well.
Cool. All right. Can you remind us the YouTube monetization rules, James? It seems like they keep changing. I remember it being 1,000 subs, a million. That's what you just said, and I
Yeah.
can't remember where the thresholds are for YouTube Shorts.
So I'm going to pretend that I'm an absolute font of knowledge and not that I Googled this when I saw this question come up. So yes, it is 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours watch time. The YouTube Shorts limitation is 10 million verified views in the last 90 days. And verified views is they have their own internal metric, what they qualify as a verified view. So it's to kind of stop bots and people from manufacturing it if the IP address is the same and it's gaming system. So that's how it does it on that, and that's when you qualify for the YouTube partner program, and you can connect your YouTube channel to a bank account and start monetizing.
Okay, wonderful. Let's see what we've got here. Chat, enjoy and interacting with everybody on this website. Last, oh, sorry, I think oh, right, here we are. We're launching a YouTube podcast with an A-list football talent. Any thoughts on strategy?
Yeah, I saw this one. So it was any thoughts on strategy? So on strategy, potential partners, do little.partner or fund startup channels, even on basis of recouping against ad sales, brand deals. So
Okay.
yeah, I can't speak to the sports side as confidently as my co-MD Robbie. So he does that. There are conversations to be had there. There's definitely conversations we're having with sports personalities around channels and the capability of running that. So feel free to reach out to me directly on that one, and I can introduce you to Robbie, and he can speak with authority. The problem is I'm one removed from it, so I don't want to speak out of turn. But yes, there's a conversation to be had there.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I am going with any questions. If in the back, guys, back, if there's any questions that you can see that I haven't answered, please let me know. Or Tammy, just make sure that you put any questions that I haven't answered up on there. Can you share any case studies where? Oh, sorry, we are.
That
Oh,
was the same question.
that was a question that we had already. Have we got another one coming? While you're sorting that out, please utilize James. It's not always that time that we get the co-managing director of one of the world's biggest digital agencies in the house. So let's utilize him. What skills do you wish TV professionals kind of grasp or think about before they start entering in the kind of digital content creation space, James?
So yeah, funnily enough, I was listening to an interview with the head of studio Lambert, and he was talking about young people applying for TV and saying they don't watch TV, and how can you want to get in TV if you don't kind of watch it? And it's exactly the same with social. Like, we jokingly use the term chronically online, and a lot of our team are chronically online, and that means that, they are living and breathing and consuming content through multiple different platforms. What I would say is people that are on, like, from a traditional broadcast or traditional production background looking to kind of get into digital, it's really important that you understand the language of the audiences on those platforms. I always talk about the language of the algorithm and the language of the audience. Language of the algorithm is that kind of understanding what kind of tags, what kind of titles, what kind of length of video and stuff like that. That comes from me, like, living and breathing and working in this industry for like 10 years, 15 years. But the language of the audience is actually, I'd say, I'm not as close to it as the more Gen Z people in my team. They understand how people comment on content, how they engage with it, how creators and talent know how to package themselves and position themselves. What is funny? What is a Gen Z meme versus a millennial meme, and things like that. And you need to be exposed to it, to understand the language, to understand the short form, what certain emojis mean, all of that kind of thing. It's like watching the parents in adolescence not understand any of the text that the kids are talking. It's like, and unless you're engaging on these platforms, you won't understand why things are working and why things are compelling. And like, Mr. Beast is always an example that's thrown around as, because he's the world's biggest YouTuber, but there's a reason he's so big. There is something quite amazing how he uses data to inform his strategy. Like, he has whole teams working on his thumbnails. He has, as a beautiful example, like, beautiful is maybe the wrong word, but a very clever example of how he used a, like, timer during his ad reads. And he would do an ad read and people know, okay, this is an advert, I will skip it. And he had a timer moving really quickly to kind of indicate this is a short ad read, don't worry. But as the ad read went on, the timer slowed down. And it actually meant that this is going to be a longer ad read than you might realize. Now, that is really smart psychological kind of way of tricking people in sticking around for the ad. It's a bit cynical and malicious, or whatever you want to say, but like, the science behind it is quite compelling. So I just think you need to be consuming content and understanding how people are engaging on these platforms, and how people are packaging it, how people are approaching it. Because it is wonderful that, like, traditional production backgrounds, you know how to shoot something, you know how to light it, you know how to script it, copywriting, all of that, fantastic. But if you don't know why people are watching Instagram, or why people are engaging with this reel or anything like that, it just puts you on the back foot. You have to be online, you have to be consuming content, and you have to be kind of passionate about it, because all of the Gen Z and Gen Alpha that are kind of coming through have only known social, so they speaking a language that's slightly different. So yeah, I would say kind of really truly engage with the platform.
Because a lot of us like to say that we don't, I don't do socials. I don't kind of go on socials too much. But actually, in this space, if you want to be on it, you've really got to embrace and kind of immerse yourself in it. Are there any creators you'd recommend checking out that we can learn from when starting out from Serena?
I don't know necessarily it's one to kind of learn from when starting out, but a couple of creators that I just think are having the best time and really leaning into all the different functionalities of all the platforms and doing everything you could possibly dream a creator could do is ShxtsNGigs. They are podcast. It's kind of like comedy podcast, two guys chatting. It started out, one was a personal trainer, one worked in a bar, I think, originally. And they just were two mates that had a podcast. And now not only have they got a global podcast, they're selling out arenas in South Africa, and they sold Madison Square Garden or something, I think. They've gone to New York, they've done like America, they've done the O2, all of those amazing things. But you look at their social accounts, so YouTube, they have their podcast is their hub. They have a membership where you can watch stuff that's kind of behind the scenes. They're making kind of their own versions of TV shows that like the members pass, lots of amazing clips and shorts and stuff like that. They're packaging it and perfecting it. And it's just a really compelling way to approach the social content. And they are social first. They've got a very unique tone of voice. They know the kind of content they're making, but also they're dominating on TikTok, they're dominating on Instagram, dominating on YouTube. They really understand, and each piece of content is bespoke to those. Like a lot of people find them through TikToks, and then they'll find a longer video on YouTube and stuff like that. But I just think they're a really fun creator that is just doing everything.
You sound inspiring. Did we do this question? No. We're talking about clips which lead to consuming entire pods, but essentially a few experts talking about the dangers of audience just watching clips and that's it, and not bothering to watch the full show. Is that really an issue? So
Yeah,
people just clipping it up, and
yeah.
how do you kind of get the balance on that?
But I would push back on that. Is that an issue? Because ultimately, if you didn't do the clips, they'd never watch your show in the first place. So if they're not going to come over to your show because they're watching clips, but they watch your clips and they find out about it, and then they're talking about it and they tell their friend or they share it on a WhatsApp or something like that, then maybe that next person that shares it will. Or because they're watching it, the viewing on those clips are doing better, so more people are served those clips. It's a similar thing of like fish where the fish are. Like if you're getting amazing views on your TikTok clips from your pod, but no one's watching it on YouTube, well, you're still building an audience on TikTok. You're still building your brand. If you don't do that and you're just leaning on YouTube, then you're not getting any momentum over there, and you're not kind of building that audience. So I think that can happen. And there are definitely podcasts that I have never watched the podcast, but I watch a lot of their clips. But if I didn't do that, or they didn't put the clips out, I wouldn't even know they exist. So I think that, yeah, there's a risk of it, but is that really a risk? Is that really a problem? Because you're still building an audience.
What jobs do you think TV producers are best suited when moving to digital? They may not make the best channel managers, for example, if they're not digital first, but are there areas where TV production skills come particularly useful?
Yeah, so we still do like original production and have a creative production studio that is very, like the core group from Little Dot when we started all came from TV. So our creative production studio is set up very similar to like any kind of TV production team, but they're just very nimble and mobile, and they know how to keep things very, very tight to a tight budget and make sure that we can be very reactive. One of the areas that we kind of blur the line is we have a lot of digital producers where it's knowing how to shoot on mobile, go to junkets, can work with talent, can work under pressure, very tight turnaround. But that again is like they're making stuff for social, so they know how to shoot vertical. They know how to kind of map out a shoot that works for something that might end up just being a 60-second TikTok, but they get all the pieces, and so it's learning how to shoot for digital is still a really necessary and useful skill. And then the other area that we are constantly kind of working with and growing in is social creative production and social creative ideation. So that would be us kind of coming up with kind of fun ideas and fun formats that might work for a marketing team. And so yeah, that is same kind of creative production and creative development that you might get in traditional TV, but with a digital skew. So with that, again, I would look at the really fun marketing campaigns that are digital first and learn from those, and how can you then emulate that kind of mindset and that kind of thinking.
Are there kind of any particular positions or jobs that you within Little Dot that you're constantly looking for? Are there any opportunities that come up you find come up quite regularly that you're always looking for?
I mean, we are always looking for like social media managers, channel managers. We're constantly hiring editors. Although I would say like editors, it's like a kind of content editor is a few years of experience, not a decade of experience. And we're looking, digital producers. There's always kind of roles coming up, and things. We have a careers site on our website, a careers page on our website that highlights every kind of role that we're hiring, and we always post it on our LinkedIn. So yeah, there's a mix of roles kind of up at any one time. So yeah, I would recommend just keep an eye on that.
I thought as the kind of I love the way you've kind of like it's got dark. You did warn me it gets dark in the
I did,
background.
yeah. I
And
have
you
my
thought,
lamp. It's very haunting. So
we know, but
apologies.
it's quite fantastic. It's quite really moody. It feels appropriate for me to ask you as kind of the final question. James, what's the best part of your day? What would you say? Although I say that, and then I see somebody trying to sneakily get a question in. But what I was going to ask you, what's the best as we round up and we get to know you a little bit? What's the best
So
part of your day, James?
the best part of my day today, and again, I'm going to have to be a bit secretive about it because I can't say. We had to submit a creative brief for a documentary, and it involves a pop star. And we got feedback that they saw it, they loved all our ideas, and it's all thumbs up. And I'm like, that is a side of that's fantastic. Like that, like all of the stress you go into it, you're like, wonderful. Not like because obviously we've got the client, and then it goes out to the actual individual, and that's great. That feels really fulfilling. That you're like the ideas that the team pulled together went directly to the talent, and they loved it, and you're like, great, thumbs up. But I would say the thing that really cheers me up is look, I've got directly underneath me it's 120, and it's a very diverse and mixed team, and they're all really enthusiastic. They're massive nerds in the most beautiful way. They love the shows they're working on. They love the creative. They love the data and the kind of the dashboards, and they love the output, and they love the client meetings, all of that kind of stuff. So they're all kind of nerds in their own disciplines, and I love the kind of work they're working on. And quite often I just get lost in the spreadsheets and the running of a department and running of a company and everything like that. And then every now and then, one of my friends outside of media, outside of the industry, will share with me over WhatsApp a funny clip or a funny moment or a funny meme with no idea that it was my team that made it. And it makes me so happy that that my friends are the randoms that we're aiming for. And they're like, this is great. And I'm like, we made that. That was my team that made that. And that is fantastic, because that's
That
what
is
we're trying to do.
fantastic. No, I
Yeah, we're
can
just
see
trying to
that.
make fun videos for people, and that's
No,
great.
I said that it was the last question, but somebody sneaked a question in, and I feel really awful if I don't get it in. So I'm going to just pop that up on stage really quickly. And let's this be the last question. Before we answer this question, guys, don't rush off. Afterwards, we have a online kind of networking fluid session. It's really good fun. James, if you've got 5 or 10 minutes, please pop in. It's really good fun. And people can kind of walk up and have a real more intimate conversation with you, and we can huddle in groups. It's really good fun. It's like being in a barber online ranting, but try and check it out. Let's get this question. So what do brands and agencies mainly look for when deciding to commit a long-term partnership with a creator or platform? How should you package your offer to be taken serious at that level?
So I guess there's a couple of things there, like how would a brand approach a platform, or how would an agency approach a creator, and brand creator, etc. So there's a few different ways to answer that one. I'd say a brand approaching a platform, it's all about value. Like what are they trying to get? Who are they trying to reach? what's the impact they're trying to make, and is it worth their investment to build on that. We've got some streamers that their core platforms are YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, but Facebook is just not of interest to them. And I find that really interesting, because there's captive audiences there, but they're like, no, we will not do anything on Facebook. Fine. What was an agency and a creator? I think, again, it depends on what the type of arrangement and partnership you're trying to do. At Little Dot, we engage with creators on behalf of brands and integrate them into some of our original productions, and might be part of our creative process, and say, we can do a format with this creator and it will be great, and we think it could be a reoccurring format for you on junkets, on red carpets and things like that. So we will often try and figure out who is the best fit for that brand and that format and that tone of voice, and that we think will be the most compelling and engaging. So that'll be a mixture of kind of researching those individual creators and their types of audiences and the types of engagement. Then a brand with a creator, it's the same kind of answer, like what is the alignment that makes sense, that kind of fits. And again, with a brand, it's always going to be, is this investment worth the return? What is the type of engagement we'll get? Are they the right types of engagement? Is it the kind of audience we're aiming for? And that's how they align it. And then agency and platform, for me, it's like, well, I'll engage with the platform if it serves the KPI. So with 80% of my partners, it's about, we generate revenue. So I engage with the platforms that generate revenue. And when they fall off a cliff and stop making revenue, I stop engaging with that platform. And when it's a marketing one, it's like, does it meet the KPIs? We're trying to build a fandom here. We want to build engagement. If that platform is then bought by a billionaire that turns it into a cesspit, then we probably pull back from that platform.
I hear it. I mean, you have been phenomenal. You guys, you will be able to kind of follow James or hear James's advice over the next 5 weeks. He features every single episode in our podcast. He was so generous with his time and his expertise. So make sure you continue to watch the podcast and kind of keep hearing James's advice. Next week, we're tackling AI and production management, particularly if you've got a shoestring budget. That's what we'll be tackling in the podcast. And our live session is with Cassie Qualis, who's an AI specialist. So he'll be sharing some of the AI tools that he's currently using. And then after that, we'll be looking at branding and monetization and audience. So Reese, a lot of those questions that you'll be asking, we'll be digging a little deeper in. I think we have Channel 4, a digital commissioner from Channel 4, a brand specialist. We've got lots of interesting, exciting things lined up. If you click on schedule, you'll see the sessions that are coming up. What I'm going to do is we're going to pause this session now. In a minute, I'm going to say thanks to James. You were absolutely phenomenal. Please share some love for James in the comments. And we're going to close this session. Temi, can you come on stage and give some advice about how we get into... Last week, we closed the session. Everybody disappeared, right? So I think that you close the session, you've got to press a button to get into the networking system. Temi's going to jump on stage. She's being really shy. There she is. There's the beautiful Temi. Hey, Temi. Thank you for rising all the back. She's backstage doing all the magic. Stop being shy. Turn your camera if you want to see your beautiful face.
I'm going to have a similar thing to James, where I'm now...
Woo! There you are, darling.
Hello. Yeah, I'm going to shut out this session. It will take you back to the lounge, and then there'll be a button to take you to a fluid space, and we'll all be in there after. So yeah, join us. If you have any issues, also just message me. I think you can message me on here, and I can help you get that.
Wonderful. James, as always, you've been amazing. Thank you so much, not only for supporting this evening, but supporting the podcast and just supporting the creators on their journey. You've been amazing. We're looking forward to continuing to build with you. It's been remarkable for me because having gone through the sessions, I feel like I'm learning life and really taking in the information and just all the expert advice that you were given and trying to put that in the podcast. And I hope that over the time, as you guys are watching, you'll see the improvements. So you'll see when James talks about this and, oh my God, you can see where we're trying to integrate. But more importantly, I hope that it's inspired you guys to kind of get started. It's not as difficult as we will make it, and actually is essentially just doing it, just getting on and doing it, and continuing doing it, but doing it in love and seeing where that takes you. James, We look forward to hanging out with you. So make sure you stick around in the fluid space. Stick around for like 10, 15 minutes. It'd be nice to kind of get into conversations. I will see you guys all very soon. Sabrina, thank you so much. Sabrina, jump on stage. Let's say thank you to you for organizing this fantastic session. Are you there, Sabrina? Sabrina, are you out there? Sabrina, I'll start singing if you don't come soon. Is she still there? Oh, have we still got? All right. Well, hopefully, if Sabrina's not there, hopefully we'll see her in the fluid room. Guys, oh, yes, she is. There she is.
Oh, hi. Am I here?
You are indeed. Thank you, Sabrina. Sabrina, tell us quickly what's coming up next week, in the next couple of weeks. What are the next couple of sessions that we can look forward to?
Well, we've got some great sessions about how to use AI on production, how to work with brands, how to kind of succeed in the digital space, and possibly a big surprise at some point if we can pull it off. So
also, one of the topics that I'm really excited about is the opportunities opening in Africa. And we're going to cover that in our audience session. So we're going to have an African panel and have an opportunity to connect with African filmmakers. I recently wrote an article in Broadcast International that spoke about the kind of potential money opportunities that happen in Africa. And there's another article coming out later on this week in BFI's Sight and Sound magazine. So open your mind. It's really interesting, all the opportunities that are going on in Africa. Temi, we're out of here.